and people hear us.
Good. I wondered.
Yeah.
You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS Fantasy game.
Hey everybody, I'll be right back.
It just takes me to like the University of Columbia. Can't find.
It should be COLOM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's still that's all that comes up. Like it thinks I'm being dumb. You know what I mean? Like it corrects it for me. Yeah, I got nothing. So maybe he just got the boot,
Well,
you know?
if Tyler's on chat, he can chime in.
Tyler, how sure are you that Yimmy Chara didn't get called up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, I can't see chat, so let me get it.
Oh.
I never pull it up.
Yeah, I just pull it up and pop out the chat and then minimize the video because it's super visually like I might have a seizure or something.
Where is he?
Oh.
So weird, though. I guess we can say has yet to be called up. But I think that if he does, at least for me, it makes a difference in that midfield. And are you looking at Nisgoda at all?
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have Swiderski, but...
Yeah, well, you can't, turns out.
Well, we could.
For the second?
No.
For the first?
When's
their game?
It depends on how injured he is.
Like Alex Roldan just got sent back from El Salvador because he was healthy enough to play this weekend, but not healthy enough to go to camp.
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
I thought he was gone.
No, he didn't. There was a tweet today or yesterday or something like that by the national team that said Swiderski did not answer the call up.
Okay. Well, you know what? I don't know how much that makes me like him, but makes me like Ben Bender more.
Yeah, and I have a note down here that says Ben Bender seems a little too trappy for me without Swiderski. So,
did you watch any of the Charlotte games though?
Mm-hmm.
I still found myself like interested in him. You know, when you watch this game, you don't really care about, and so then you just look at people for fantasy, like people you might not know.
Yeah.
I like him. He's on their corners, right? Like he's taking their corners. He looks like that freshman on a varsity soccer team who's trying so hard because he wants to contribute.
He's try hard.
I don't know that he just seems to be working in a good way. So I don't know how, like, you watch someone like Zella and you're like, oh, he just picked up 6 bonus points doing nothing because he's just so talented, right? And that equates to bonus points. But Bender looks like someone whose hustle and effort and where they're playing him really might produce more. He's doing what I thought Yordi Reyna would do. Like when they had Yordi Reyna, I thought he would be this kind of influential winger, maybe take some kicks, like leadership, and he's just kind of fallen to the wayside. I don't know if he's hurt or something, but
yeah, I think Reyna's.
Yeah, he started the first game, and then we haven't really seen him. I don't know. He intrigued me when we watched him in the New England game this past weekend, and he caught my eye the first time too. But this past weekend, I was like, this kid might be for real.
I got a confession to make. When you asked me if I watched Charlotte at all, I don't really trust myself watching Charlotte.
Sure.
I mean, like Yordi Reyna, he looked really good in that first match, and so
Yeah.
did TD Ortiz. And I see I'm already getting heckled in chat for that. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I wasn't going to bring him up if I could help it, but since we're talking Charlotte, TD Ortiz has been getting very limited minutes, and
Yeah.
surprises me. I mean, isn't he a DP or?
I thought so. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I'm misremembering, but his price in the game makes me think he is, right?
I guess if you have, like, you don't have to, you can have a DP and not start him. I mean, like,
sure, yeah, but Portland does it all the time.
But like, I mean, come on. I mean, he looked really, really good. He passed the eye test. He had so many chances.
Yeah.
In that first game, and I don't know what it was. He just crapped the bed, basically.
Yeah.
The second game, and he got benched for the third.
Yep. Which was surprising.
Yeah, maybe he's hurt. I have no idea. Maybe it's undisclosed. I have no clue. Cam says Ortiz is not a DP, which
okay, our bad.
Yeah. He sure proved that.
Yeah. He was at least hyped. I think it's fair to say, you know,
by the club, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I wasn't gonna bet money on it, but my recollection was that he was a DP just because of the amount of times I heard his name coming into the season from MLS, from Charlotte, you know. But
hey, while we have like time for this, I don't have to interject it. I have a couple of like tidbits of information here.
Hit me.
That I was going to mention. Oh crap, he's back.
Reid's here now. He can't hear us, so it's not as funny.
I guess I'll go to Plan A.
So sorry, everyone. So sorry. Mrs. Fantasy Boss was having some trouble getting Baby Roo ready for a bath.
Did she really sign her checks that way?
No, yeah, of course she does. No. Legally, right? No?
Not at all. Nope, never.
I had a fun exchange in Discord this week where someone thought that, I think it was Tyler actually, thought he and I were in similar ranks in a league, and then I had to point out that was Spencer. But someone else pointed it out to him first before I could even say it.
What's Spencer's handle?
It's oh god, Power Cube on Fire is his team name. Well, he's not in Discord.
Oh, he's not. Okay.
He's not. No.
He's lame.
I know. Get on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Like I said, had a quick little pause there because I needed to help with Baby Roo, and that will always happen. But thanks for joining us. I know there are some first-time visitors with us tonight. If you are watching Jimmy King, who messaged me on Twitter today, and was excited to learn that we have a live stream. I hope you're able to join us. So welcome. I'll mention you one more time once we get everything actually started, just in case you do miss us and you have to listen to it on the podcast. But I've got the social out, so if you would be so kind, please feel free to retweet the social links out there on Twitter or whatever other social media that you use, and like and subscribe if you are following us on YouTube or joining us on YouTube for the first time, so you can get those notifications. This is going to be an interesting episode because this is a weird round, which we'll get into more when the show starts. But we'll definitely be open for some questions. And hey there, Jimmy. And we'll be open for some questions. And feel free to shoot them out in the chat. I'll try to monitor what I can. But we're going to be covering double game week only this week, and I'll get into that more once we get started. So
yeah, and you mean double game week, not this round. We mean week this time when we say week.
Yeah, no, I'll cover that too. This is why I call these things rounds and not weeks. Yeah. So this is a prime example. So okay, well, let's get the intro going for the sake of the podcast, and we'll get started. Hello and welcome everyone to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 5 of the 2022 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by Bears. Never underestimate the ones who can dance. Actually, brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters of the MLS Fantasy Insider. It's because of you that we're able to keep this going, so thank you so much. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. Blaine is not able to be with us tonight, and he had a little statement for me to say. He's had a very busy weekend, and he needed to spend some time with his family and Lily. He was gone for over 20 hours over the last 2 days, so some needed family time right there due to his work. So Blaine is not with us. However, we would also like to welcome back to the show our special guest, Christian Ward from the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community. How are you doing, everybody?
Good.
Yeah, doing well.
My family, on the other hand, doesn't care.
Yeah.
They're just happy to have some
Me
time away
neither.
from you.
Actually, they do. They had to do with that shit before the season started.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining. And of course, I got a message today on Twitter asking about, one, expressing some excitement for the show and having a question about double game weeks, which is going to be a big focus. Double game week players going to be a big focus of the show this week. But it came from Jimmy, who was excited to learn that we do a YouTube broadcast live whenever we're getting the sound for the podcast. And so Jimmy is with us today live. So hello, Jimmy. Thanks for joining us. And anyone else who's listening right now on the podcast, if you are ever so inclined and you have no time or no activities taking up your time at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on Mondays, that's when we record live this show. And if you'd like to join us live for that, participate in chat, which you hear me reference often during this broadcast, the show, then please do so. It's always a lot of fun. So happy to have you, Jimmy. Happy to have everyone who also might be new and everyone who's joining us again on the regular. So thanks so much, guys. It's really, really fun having you all to interact with each week. Let's start before we get into double game week madness. If you haven't checked already, look at the calendar. It's a crazy double game week. This is why I call them rounds and not weeks, because it actually spans 2 weeks in one round. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about round 4 though first. How'd your teams do, Christian?
I got 91 points. I think that's probably pretty good for the week. Average, basically. Overall rank is 42. I took the calculated risk of capping Velasco, which failed miserably. And but Vasquez and Heel paid off. So, hey, honey, right there.
Ashley, what about you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 92. Overall rank 135. Slowly creeping up. I had some heavy misses with Driussi, which I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack, or have gotten some in Discord already for hyping that Austin game. Zella, I went back and forth about whether or not I wanted him. Definitely wasn't going to captain him. He was a bust. And then Chicago defense and Chicago middies let me down because I did not go Shaqiri. And everyone but Shaqiri basically busted that game. But the best left back in MLS saved my week. I wanted to not do Fall. I could afford it. And I kept being like, oh, should I upgrade to him? Which ended up not having been an upgrade. But I really wanted Hollingshead. I just kind of liked him in the game better. So I was able to use that money a little bit other places and didn't regret it. Went back and forth between Vela and Chicharito a lot, which I think a lot of people did. And I landed on Chicharito, which was disappointing, but still good enough score. Slowly moving up in my overall. Happy to see Hollingshead helping me out this week.
Yeah, I had a very up and down round. So I started out at the end of Saturday. I finished with 41 points on my bench, and I was like, yes, this is fantastic. I had 41 points, and I had 41 on my bench, and I was like, this is going to be good. This is going to be so good. And that was Vasquez. That was Joseph Martinez. I had another Minnesota defender and Dane St. Clair as well. So I didn't fall into the Cincinnati keeperoo trap. And I had my captain on Driussi, which ended up not playing out. When I saw the lineups for New England, I put in Heel, so I got those points. Didn't have have him as my captain there, as I said. And then Sunday came, and I, as you may have noticed, I was down on my butt hard with a stomach bug, and so I missed that one of my Seattle switcheroos was actually in the 18, and he came in for the last 2 minutes of the game and cost me my Joseph Martinez points. But I opted not to upgrade to Vela, and I left my captain on Driussi just because I thought that Seattle game would
me too.
do better. Yeah, I mean, you got to eat a hat now. So
yeah, I do have to eat Blaine's hat,
like
I think I said.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I actually only ended with 90 points, but today I had to pay a point tax to Skylar, and so 89 is what happens after, I guess, the adjustments. But I ended on 89. Not bad. I won my Pro Rel League, so that was a very heavy result right there. Kind of a mixed bag of my head-to-heads. I won some, lost some. I lost one of my head-to-heads to Black and Red, one of our Discord players, one of our top players, former champion, I believe. And I'll tell you exactly. That was in a special head-to-head league that we have for some of the Discord members, and lost to him 89 to 100. He told me not to mention that result if he lost, and then once the game ended, he said, "You're going to mention that result now, right?" So, sure.
I have to tell you, I was in the other room when Josh Tentio was warming up, and as a Seattle fan, my head was like, "Oh, Josh is subbing in. He's getting healthy." And I sprinted in the other room, and I was like, "No, he's Reid Scrub." And he was like, "Oh, well."
Yeah, nope. Should have not been sick and paid attention to lineups better, Reid.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope. But hey, it all happens. It was fun. I got some results that I needed. Still gained around 3 million, I think, in value. So I'm around 114.2, I think is what it is. So pretty good. Still feeling pretty good about value gain. For me, this whole first sort of Champions League qualifier is mostly about value building. So that's really where I like to see everything going. Other than that, Blaine got 66 points, but again, he was gone for 20 hours this week. Not the best results, but thanks for sharing your result with us, buddy. We appreciate it. Some great scores, seeing in Discord, 90s, 100s. So sorry, next that was that you had to drop some, but 70s. So I think people who got in those high 80s to 90s had a good week. Other than that, it would really depend on your place in the rankings for how you finish, but that's a good area to shoot for. Let's talk about some of the key takeaways before we get into some discussion topics, before we get into our housekeeping. General, for me, there were questions about the performance, I think, of marquee players on the road this week. A lot. We were talking about Zella. We were talking about Heel a lot going into this round. And both Zella and Heel added wood to the fire of why you might consider them fixture proof. They had strong results for away teams. 14 points for Heel is a great score even at home, especially if you captain him. So I'm not saying they're fixture proof, but I'm saying that's adding wood to the fire and definitely in the right situations. But it's worth looking at these guys because they are being consistent, and that's important when we're looking at the fantasy form. And also, as I already mentioned, Ashley has to eat a hat.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah. Carlos Vela is just toying with our hearts and our minds, I feel. Another great outing from him after a terrible outing on the road to Inter Miami. And yes, that was on the road, and this weekend was at home, but Inter Miami is Inter Miami. I think we all expected a little bit more from him once we saw he was starting that game. So, who knows where to go with him. I feel like as soon as he produces, we all hop back on, and then as soon as he gets hurt, we all hop back off. So I think we might be in for another roller coaster-ish year with Carlos Vela. That Philly defense looks to be solidifying. I was impressed to see that. And while I definitely agree with you that Heel bonus point production was insane, kind of everything else about New England feels off to me. Not posting a ton of shutouts, giving up 3 to an expansion team, not seeing goal. I know that Bo and Buxa didn't start, but they're not getting on the score sheet yet. It just feels like a slow start over there with a team that last year broke the all-time points records, right? And if anything, they got better. They brought in Sebastian Lletget, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I think to start the season, a lot of us were looking, heel Bo Buxa defender or, keeper, whatever, three New England players for a couple of these home games. And now, I'm not quite sure. I'm not writing them off by any means, but another dicey outing for them. And then I figured you'd say it, but FC Cincinnati 2 in a row. Are we taking them seriously? Is Brendan Vasquez a legitimate false nine? Are we going there for fantasy? I don't know, but they're going into a double game week, so I feel like if there was ever a time, it's now.
We'll talk about it.
Yep.
Christian.
I paid close attention to the Atlanta game. I paid close attention to all of them, but especially the Atlanta game. I really like what Almada did when he came on, and Moreno just did not look good at all, not even a little bit. So Almada, and I've got the note here, Almada and Velasco are two mids that I'll be targeting once their minutes firm up. Velasco looks like he's the real deal from Dallas. He's on sets as well, most free kicks. And I'm really excited to see that guy. He really hooked up with, or he created some real opportunities for Jesus Ferreira, who got the Hattie. I wish Velasco had gotten the assists for that Hattie, because I capped him. Anyway, let's see, what else do I have here? Oh yeah, Brooks Lennon can kick a dead soccer ball with acceptable accuracy. However, Lucho Acosta.
Oh, that was so depressing. So depressing.
So hard to watch. Yeah.
PK. I was like, yes, that's. Oh no.
Yeah, I have the impression that Lucho's ability to disappoint as a fantasy asset is firmly intact.
Possibly. Had some good underlying stats, but missing a PK hurts. But having a captain that only gets 4 points, and so he would have been a better captain option still for me, priceless.
Well, yeah.
Actually, no, not priceless, because MLS. That's exactly what that is. Thanks so much for those quick takeaway, guys. I have a second follow-up takeaway right here, and I wanted to point this out specifically at the top of the show because I've seen this question multiple times on Twitter. Sometimes it's been addressed to me. Sometimes it's been addressed to people like Ryan or Skylar on the fantasy account, and I'm going to try to make a video about it when I can, but I wanted to address it right now, and that is, how do you change your lineup? I've seen it multiple times. The default lineup is a 4-4-2, and I'll see people post teams and they'll say, how did you get 5 midfielders? How did you get 3 defenders? How do you change your lineup? And I just want to try to address this right now via the podcast. If you look at your team, either right now when everything is open to change or during the game, underneath your player in the middle, you should see 2 circles. One is an X, the one on the right, and that will remove the player. The one on the left of the middle is a red and green arrow in a circle, pointing at each other, following each other. This is the substitute button. It's what you'll use during the game if you make a manual substitution, but it's also what you'll use when the game is not live right now to set your field. So right now on my bench, I have 2 forwards and a defender, which means on my field I have 4 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 1 forward. There are minimums for what you have to have. You can never have fewer than 3 defenders. You can never have fewer than 1 forward, and you have to have 3 midfielders at least. So the game won't let you sub those players out if you are already at those minimums. But with this lineup right here, I can make any substitutions I want to my defense or my midfield. So if I want to say put Brandon Vasquez onto the field, I just click the green and red circle icon, and then everybody on my field is now active except my goalkeeper. My forward is active because I could swap them and still have 1 forward right there. But if I want to have a 4-4-2, then I would just hit this transfer button, click on one of my midfielders, and it swaps the midfielder to my bench, puts my forward on the field. If I want to add another forward out there, so Martinez, and I want to go with a 4-3-3, I click on this transfer button, click on another midfielder, puts Martinez on the field, and the formation changes automatically. You hit save and it's locked in. So that's how you'll make your changes. You always use that transfer substitution button, whatever you want to call it, and then it will activate the players. You'll see they'll get slightly bigger if you're watching the screen animation when it happens. It'll activate the players who you had the ability to swap. If you do it with one of your field players, it will highlight the bench players that you can swap them with, or if you can't swap anybody, they just wouldn't be highlighted. But it's usually going to be the bench. If you're taking someone from your field, it should always be the bench. If it's someone you're going to take from the field. So that's how you do a transfer, a manual transfer, and that's how you set the lineup on the field for what you want it to be going into the round. It'll also change as well during the game if you're making those manual changes, but that's how you change that lineup. So I hope
there's also instructions in the how to play tab. Everything there's no pictures. Like, I love how you just like described that a lot more vividly. But if you hover over how to play and just your general, like the fantasy homepage on a browser, if you scroll down, there's a whole section about selecting your team, how many you can have in each position, how you physically sub them in, when you can no longer sub them in the game. That would be it's more thorough than what you just said, because what you just said is the exact way to do it.
Right.
like the precise actions. But that if you want a little more detail about it, if you head over to the how to play section on the fantasy homepage, you can read about it more.
Yeah, no, fantastic tip. And then also one tip from our chat from Black and Red is that make sure that you always refresh your page after making a change. So you'll want to save your team and then refresh just to make sure things have worked out appropriately. But
I will leave the page and then come back to it to make sure, because I've been burned on browsers more than once, which is too many times.
Excellent. But I hope that helps.
I never refresh. And
oh, well, good for you. Try doing it when you're away on international trip and hoping that you locked it in.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to cover that real quick at the top of the show because I've seen that question a few times, and I hope that helps. I will try to make a video about it sometime, as well as a new switcheroo video, but I did want to address that. So again, hope that helps. Let me know. But now let's transition into our housekeeping section for round 5. All right, let's start with housekeeping for round 5 and also our double game week review right here. I know it's been a while, everybody. Quick little, have to touch base on this. MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational shift in the leaderboard has happened with a record of 4-0-0 by points, because two players have a record of 4-0-0. Christian Ward is winning the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts League right now. Yeah, dethroned. Yeah, dethroned last week's guest, Ryan.
That's not going to last.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Enjoy it while it's here, Christian.
Quick updates from our Pro Rel League. In the Champions League, Ben Lyon of FC Bird Turgler is still leading. He's also the #1 player overall, so that's some tough competition there. But there are 3 teams who are tied with 4-0-0 in the Champions League. Ashley, what about the veterans?
Yeah, it's still Almeida's Vibes FC, Firestone. So week 1 they didn't have it, and they've had it every week since. So.
And then in the Development League, update from Blaine, FC Red Bull Green Mountain is still on top, and but there are only 4 teams with a perfect score left, so that is based on points right there. So I love that we have so many people who are still competing right there with points, because as soon as someone slips, it's going to be drastic changes in the Pro Rel League. And of course, I'm no longer in the relegation zone, so I'm happy about that. Okay, the actual round 5, what I know a lot of you all have come to listen about. The games start on Saturday, March 26th at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Charlotte versus Cincinnati. Now, like I mentioned at the top of the show, take a real close look at this lineup. We have Saturday, Sunday, and then Saturday, Sunday. This is 2 weeks of games shoved into one fantasy round. Again, this is why I call them rounds and not weeks, because crazy stuff like this happens. And it's a simple question. Why did this happen? It's so that we didn't only have a round with 3 teams or 3 games with 6 teams total. Would have not been fantastic for the differentials and just chalk teams, it would have been crazy. That's the simple reason of why this is happening. International breaks, call-ups, the MLS Fantasy game still continues to go, the league still continues to go, and this is what happens is we have some weird weeks and weird rounds. But this has created a double game week for us that's kind of a faux double game week. We have 6 teams who are playing technically a double game week. And what that means is you're going to get their points twice. So let's just use the easy example. FC Cincinnati is one of the 6 teams that is going to be playing twice during round 5. If you have Vasquez, if you have Brandon Vasquez on your team, and he gets 2 more braces, if he scores 4 more goals over these next 2 weeks, you will get all of those points. All 4 goals will count for your fantasy score. If he's your captain, you will get double from all 4 of those goals. Last year, you would only get the highest game. That's gone. We're back to the classic scoring. It will be the combined score for the player over both games. So that's going to be very important to remember as we're going forward. Tonight, we're only going to be talking about the double game week player options. Now, you may think, I just want to load up my team with all double game week players. Not true. Ever since I've been playing this game, I don't think it's ever been a double game week round where at least one single game week player hasn't made the dream team, hasn't been a viable contender because crazy things happen. So I'm going to tell you right now, and we'll remind you again, it's likely going to be smart to have a couple positions that you don't have a double game week player, and you look at some of those strong single game week players. We'll be talking about them next week so that we can just focus on those single game week guys because you'll have plenty of time. Only these double game week teams will lock for this round. So that's the quick review of how double game weeks work. These teams are going to lock. You're not going to be able to move them, and you're going to get the double points from both of their games. So they're going to be ideal captain targets. They're going to be some potential great keeperoos in here, some great switcheroo options depending on how you want to stack everything up. But it's going to be very interesting, and it's nice. It's nice that it's just 6 teams because it's an easy introduction for some of the newer players right here. But whoops, little pop up there. So the rest of the teams in a double game week this week, we have Sporting Kansas City, Portland, Real Salt Lake, Charlotte, Cincinnati, and Orlando. Of those teams, Portland is playing both of their games at home, and Real Salt Lake is playing both of its games on the road. It's also important because, as we talked about, home and away form is, unless you're someone like Zella or Heel, is important in how this works. Sometimes it can factor into tired legs, rotations, all that good stuff, or the lack thereof for maybe Portland since they get to play at home and rest at home. It's also two weeks, so grain of salt, the faux double game week right here. But that's how it comes out. Sporting Kansas City, Portland, RSL, Cincinnati, Charlotte, and Orlando, all your double game week teams right there. Now, that being said, just because they're playing twice doesn't mean that some people might still be missing because it is an international call-up time, and so some players are going to be likely missing. Tyler has done a great job at updating the mega reference about this, and I'm going to turn it over to Christian right now to give us a quick rundown of how we can find that and who we should be keeping an eye on for being gone.
All right. I just wanted to point out something that Michael Denton, your former co-host,
that's
wrote
a
in
good
chat. Do you want to do it, Reid, before I launch into this?
No, I can highlight what I think he's saying. It's if you're looking at sort of, I think he's talking about the averages. He says it's not really 2 times the points. Apply the games, have a quick week routine. So you will get the total points of both games. The way a double game week works for the averages is players usually average about 1.5 times more points than usual. So those double game week players tend to still be more desirable because they will average more. It's not a straight up 2 times their points average. It's more about 1.5 times points. There could be rotations, there could be tired legs, there could be a number of things that happen.
I think he's saying it's the effective result. Like, like if you, I mean, that's on a normal double game week, like when there's like 2 games in an actual
midweek. midweek
calendar
when we
week.
have like Tuesday, Wednesday games, and then everybody plays that same weekend. That's
Yeah,
a
but
traditional
since
double
this
game
is
week.
sort of like smashing
Yeah.
2 game weeks to get, or 2
Yeah.
weeks to get, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure that 1.5 times the points you should be expecting is it necessarily applies. I don't know.
It is. That's why I was going with faux double
Yeah.
game week. But no, it's a good point. This is going to be kind of a weird one, and you could very well get double. I mean, Vasquez could come back in with double hat tricks. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
You might be dreaming on that
Might have
one. I
sprained-
like it. I mean, he's
might
in
have
my
sprained
team.
a
I'll take
foot or
it. Yeah.
something, right? All right, call-ups. I'm going to do this by club.
Well, do you want to just cover some of the bigger names so we don't read? This list exists in so many places, I think, that people can find it to read everything out. Do you want to maybe just cover some of the like actual names that we would relate to picking up this week, if that makes sense, right?
Just do the double game week teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be good, because Reid, have you retweeted this on Twitter too? This screenshot, because I think the screenshot is super helpful.
I have.
If you're not on Discord to look at the lists, I think that is amazing.
Right.
So yeah, go for it, Christian. Sorry, didn't mean to
Do
interrupt.
it again.
Oh yeah. So for Charlotte, Alan Franco, is his name really Alan Franco?
Mm-hmm. I do that too.
And McCown are both called up. Ronald Matarrita from Cincinnati. Let's see.
And Powell, Office Powell, right?
He's not on the list anymore.
Great.
Oh, did he come off?
Orlando. Is that the next one? Yeah. Pedro Gallese, Mendez, and Facundo Torres are all called up. Tuiloma is the only Portland player that's called up. SKC.
RSL.
Oh yeah, RSL. Justin Miram. Sorry. Well, he doesn't count. All right. All right.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, Miram.
You can skip those two SKC guys. If you can't say their names, they don't play for them, right? We
Yeah,
don't know those two guys. Denbei.
I'm gonna try
Okay.
because it's gonna be funny. Zionis.
Yeah, I think so. Vujnovic?
No, hang on. Vujnovic.
Okay.
And Dembe. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Cam?
that one I know.
Right. Okay. Those are the 3 that are called up. And is that it? Is that all 6 teams? Okay.
Yep. For the full list, just head over to the Discord, and that's in which channel?
Oh crap. It's gonna be a part of the Mega Reference.
And the Mega Reference
So that's
is in the
the Fantasy Tools.
Fantasy Tools channel. So yeah, head over that to check out everything that's there. The easiest way to get access to that is MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord. It's in the top bar right there at the website, and there's the code to join. It's easy, it's free, and it's fun, isn't it, Christian?
Yep.
Okay. Boatloads.
No, it's fantastic. We've got over 1,200, maybe more members now, and there's always some great conversation going on. So some of the top, as you know, some of the top players in the game, Black and Red, Ben Lyon, Ryan Anderson, Todd Modisette, some of the people who are easily in the top 10, 20 people of the game are right there, who hang out all the time, answer questions, Panda, people who you hear on the show. So yeah, it's Christian, who's been in our Experts League. So it's a great place. Definitely check it out. All right.
Don't forget Ryan. Did you say Ryan?
I think I said Ryan.
Yeah, you led with that.
He wasn't here to say amen to his
Ryan
name this
again.
week. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what we have for the call-ups. Again, check all that out. This strange faux double game week, and that was our quick review of how the double game week system works. I hope that was helpful for those who asked about it, and for those who are new and haven't experienced a double game week before. Just know we'll talk about this again, because this isn't a real one. This isn't a real one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They said I forgot Skylar. Skylar Redpath also hangs out over in the Discord. He doesn't answer as many questions, but he is our MLS contact as well. So if you do catch him and you have some questions about the game, you can also hit him up. So yeah, all kinds of people. But now let's move on to actually talking about the double game week players who we are targeting for round 5. Okay. Social is out. The social buttons are working this week. Yay. Those of you who are new, this is the pause I make so that I can make the edits in the show and send out the social. Always appreciate shares. All right, let's now talk the double game week player targets we have for round 5. And I said that specifically because, as I said in our last segment, this is a strange, weird, faux double game week. So we're only going to talk about the double game week players from the 6 teams on a DGW this week. Next week, we'll be talking about the single game week players who are still going to be eligible in round 5. So you may not want to fill up your team with all double game week players, because there are some decent single game week games, and we'll talk about those next week. But tonight, we're talking double game weeks, and as always, we're starting with keepers and defenders. I will make one comment right here. I know that lots of people are going to be talking about Khan coming up, and I think it makes a lot of sense based on the timing, but I don't know. I just don't know about that one. Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it. I think what's enticing about him, besides price, first of all, he took a price hit, right? For those of us who tried to keep him, he went down from 4.5 to 4.4. But the timing of his games, where he plays the very first game of the first week, and then he plays in the second game of the real following weekend, gives you time to pivot to a single game week keeper if you so desire. I don't love any of these 6 teams for shutouts in both games. So to me, rolling with him and seeing if since he can ride this momentum into Charlotte, pull off one shutout, I think it's worth how cheap he is, because there are some good single game week keeper options, which we'll talk about next week. So I think it's set up well, but I'm not incredibly confident that he'll hit with enough points to keeperoo whoever you start. I would definitely please don't start him. I think that goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. But I am looking at that just because I feel like the timing of the games is kind of set up for it. So I have him on my bench right now for a keeperoo to slide into a single game week keeper. If he can't hit, if he doesn't get enough bonus points. And then, I kind of go back and forth with what I like between just 3 teams, which is RSL, Orlando, and Portland. I'm not really looking at Cincinnati, Charlotte, or SKC for defenders this week, because I think Christian is going to echo me here. I'm not really looking at clean sheets with a lot of these players. I'm looking at bonus point production. Clean sheets would be great. I think they could be out there this double game week, but nothing is jumping off the page at me saying, oh, this is a shutout. So I like Brody and I like Glad. They're similar enough in price that I think it's kind of just up to your preference. I always go back and forth between liking a center back and a winger. I'm doing the same thing with Antonio Carlos and Ruan at Orlando. Antonio Carlos's bonus points productions are just too good and consistent right now to not take him. So that's who I'm leaning towards for Orlando. And then again, going back and forth between center backs and wing backs, McGraw and Van Renken. McGraw was like kind of a joke to some of us to start this season, this cheap kid to slot in on the bench for a price rise, but he's continued to price rise and he's continued to start. I think he's a decent shout with Tuiloma out as well. I like Van Renken. He gets more bonus points. He has higher projected points. But when I watch him play, he's just like one decision away from a red card. He's kind of dicey. He reminds me of some of my favorite defenders in MLS history because I love a good hothead. But in fantasy, a good hothead can come back to bite you. So I don't know that he's ever produced that type of discipline. But like I said, when I watch him, I get a little concerned that he might not make the full 90. So I don't know a ton about how Portland will rotate, which that also makes me lean towards McGraw because Tuiloma's out, so they're going to be thinner at center back depth. But again, for me this week, it's bonus points, not shutouts with these double game week players. And I don't know if I necessarily see a shutout coming from Portland. So picking someone that has better bonus point potential might be the best bet there. And then my fourth defender, again, we'll talk next week, is going to be a single game week player.
Christian, what do you want to add?
Under clean sheets, let me look at my notes. Oh yeah. Ha 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 ha. That's what I have written. Anyway,
Fair.
It's echoed in chat. This is also in my notes. Go for bonus point producers. I have a rule that is hard and fast on double game weeks from 2019, and that is pick center backs who are almost guaranteed a double start unless someone gets injured or carded. And they are, generally speaking, the highest bonus point producers on your defense. So why flirt with disaster? I mean, pick some center backs. I'm avoiding Portland center backs just because there is a very good chance that Mabiala and Zuparic will be back at some point in the next 2 weeks. So if you start one like McGraw and Zuparic or Mabiala come back, you're kind of screwed. Also, I have a note here. Cam was so generous to provide about clean sheets. If you're considering Sporting Kansas City or RSL, he throws out there the SKC RSL overall series is tied at 16 wins apiece with 53 total goals scored, and that averages out to be 3.3 goals per match, which surprised the crap out of me. So I thought I'd share that. And the only thing that I'm thinking of when I read that stat now is I'll be damned if I can figure out who they're going to come from in this match. With Sporting Kansas City's attack all messed up and RSL's defense looking pretty good, I'm not sure that I would bank on many goals from Sporting Kansas City. But so for keeper, there are two options that I'm seriously looking at. First one was a solo option with Ivitic from Portland, 2 home games, and you know, because it's bracketing the game week, or the round rather, I just going to go solo with that. Also, I'm looking at Khan for the reasons described above, but I'm going to twist or throw a fallback of Yarbrough. I'm thinking he's got the best bonus points, but we're not supposed to talk about single game weeks. Players.
Get more into it later. The one thing I will add. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to add the one thing I'll add about defenders is I've seen some people mention Fontas in chat right now. Blaine had a note that said that it's actually Isamat Miran who has the best bonus point production right now. It's actually not right. It's actually Zusi by 1 point. But
well, for center backs.
For center backs, yes. But Zusi actually technically has more points, and all of his are actually defensive bonus points. None of his are attacking bonus points either. But both Fontas and Isamat Miran are 7.4. Zusi is 6.7. So there's just a couple of other options and names to throw out at you.
So for defenders, I'm looking at I'm going to break the rule that I just told you about, because Justin Glad came off injured. He was originally in my lineup. So Aaron Herrera, pretty sure he's going to be back.
He's a winger, though. You think he's replacing Justin Glad?
No, I would have Justin Glad if he.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, but Herrera is pretty explosive, and for Ashley reasons, I'm looking at Herrera. So I'm torn between, because this is a really, really crappy double game week for teams who are on double game weeks, mainly because there are so few of them. I try to avoid having attackers going against my defenders, if at all possible. But of course, since there's only 6 teams, that's going to be almost impossible to pull off this week and still have all double game week players if that's what you're going for. So I have both Orlando center backs. Antonio Carlos is a hard lock for me. I might switch Jansen out for somebody else. I don't know. And then I've got both the Philly, 2 Philly wing backs as fallbacks. I should also note that I'm going to do 5 at the back auto Rue because on a double game week like this, it just seems to me that it's the best option. You get the best of 3 from your bench, and it's less headache to deal with. So I would suggest, actually, if you're confused about formation, look at the 5 at the back auto with 2 defensive scrubs / 2 defensive fallbacks. So that's it for me.
Good deal.
Defense.
Well, let's move on to midfielders then. Ashley, who do you like?
Yeah, I did a hard deep dive because there's so many amazing people that do these international call-up checks, and I was so concerned that Yimi Chara was actually called up for Colombia. He's not. Everyone was right. I was paranoid for no reason. Yimi Chara leads the book for me this week for middies because of the 2 home games. They're not missing enough people to make me not continue to like his bonus point production. I don't know how many bicycle kicks he has left in him, but I missed the first 2, so I'd like to benefit from at least 1 this season if I can. I just like him better. We'll have probably a decent back and forth here about Blanco and if you want to go Blanco and how his minutes are increasing. But when I go into a double game week, I want the player that's playing the hottest, not the guy I think might come back. I think Sebastian Blanco is a better fantasy pick when everyone's healthy and playing. But to go into this weird, awkward double game week, I just don't like him enough to have him in my team, and I don't like both of them enough to have them both. So for me, it's Yimi over everyone else in the Portland midfield. I like Ruiz from Real Salt Lake. I haven't watched him a bunch. I feel like I'm chalky with that pick, but when I look at his point production, I like what I see. Going back and forth between Pereira and Junior Urso for Orlando, I would have wanted Torres, but with him being called up, Pereira's on more free kicks. I think Junior Urso is a little more explosive. He tends to play high up the field as well. He didn't start the first game, and then he got a goal. He's a little cheaper. I don't necessarily need the money this week, but I still always like to have it in case people don't start the first round, or I do want to plug single game week players in, or I need to fill a scrub spot or something. So I'm going back and forth between the 2 of them. I do like Lucho. I wrote his name down, but I always just kind of hesitate with him since he's come to Cincinnati because he's just boom or bust, right? Like even last week, like you said, Reid, his point production was there, but then he missed a PK. So he didn't really provide the points that you would think he would. I think the matchups do kind of favor him this week, except for Montreal. Montreal, I think, is going to be a little difficult, especially now that they're out of Champions League and, they don't have any games going on in between when they come to Cincinnati. But I still think if you're going double game week, Acosta is a good look. And then, Christian and I kind of talked about it pre-show if anybody was listening before we started recording. I think I'm into Ben Bender. I know people are going to say chalk, hype, whatever. But we watched in my house the first 2 home games that Charlotte had. And in the first one, I thought he looked goodish, but, not a big player, not an expensive player, not a fantasy point producer. And then last game, I thought he legitimately looked awesome. He's taking corner kicks. He's getting involved. I think now that it's come out that, say it again for me, Swiderski.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If he's around and not gone on international duty, that gives him someone to target. And so he's cheap if you need a cheap play. I don't know that I want to start him, but I'm taking him more seriously than I think I should. And then again, we'll talk next week, but there's some of these single game weeks of home teams on next week's single game that are interesting me enough to talk me out of a full double game week midfield. So I'm trying to leave one spot open, and I might be at the expense of Ben Bender, but I don't know. I kind of like him.
All right, Christian, who do you want to add?
Not Ben Bender.
Oh, come on. Give the kid a chance.
He just seems too trappy for me without Swiderski there to like finish anything he's creating.
Yeah, agree. If he's there, right? You said he didn't get called up.
Well, he got called up, but he didn't go. And then I'm reading over here now that, I mean, the language is just a little bit
murky.
Yeah.
To be determined.
He likely will not go.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
I agree with you. If he's not there, I don't like Ben Bender.
Yeah.
But if he is,
yeah, I mean, watch Ben Bender get like 30 points.
That's fine. You can eat a hat then.
Yeah, I'll eat a hat. I'm not eating Blaine's hat.
No, I know. I regretted it. It's
so I've got the chalk picks: Lucho, Ruiz from RSL, Remy Walter. I've got Yimi Chara, and I'm hoping Yimi Chara collects bicycle goals like his brother collects yellow cards.
Yeah.
Also, I have who do I have? I lost the line because I'm weird. All right. Oh yeah, I'm one of those Blanco believers. I think that he goes at least 120 this round. And if he goes 120, his XG is like amazeballs. Honest to God, I don't have the number in front of me. I just am soaking up like the group think on that one. But his XG is high, and he's effective, and he changes games. And so I may just do that.
And he's cheap because he's taking a price hit every week.
Big time. Yeah, I did. He'll probably, if he doesn't score like 25 points, he's probably going to stay the same or drop. But well, maybe not. And I've got a pivot to Carlos Heel as well. If oh crap, I mentioned a single game with Claire. I'm going to get kicked off.
Come on, Christian.
Boot. Nope. Thanks. It's okay. We'll touch more on that next week. Nothing else really to add. Blaine was also looking at Torres as an option, but he also has most of the same things you guys have already talked about. So
Torres from Orlando, who got called up.
Yeah.
I guess he did do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He just wrote Torres. So see, 66 points, not even paying attention.
No.
Just told me I sounded like I was in a box.
Oh.
Hashtag priorities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to torpedo everybody. Not being on the show. Not being on the show. Let's move on to our forwards. Ashley.
I'm going to let Christian go first.
Sure.
Just his name's
Why?
there. I don't know, because I went first last time.
All right. I've got, of course, Brandon Vasquez Schmidt from that team of Salt Lake. Ashley, move your cursor, dang it. I can't even read my... Okay. Okay, so if Swiderski starts, I'm putting him straight into my team because I think that he is going to be, and then I will look at Ben Bender if that is the case. If he does not start the first game, I will pivot to Niezgoda. Even though I don't like Niezgoda, I will put him in my team because that's what you do on a double game week. And then I've got to pivot to Higuain.
Bum.
Yeah.
Didn't get his redemption last week.
Yeah. He sure did.
Ashley.
Yeah, I also like Brandon Vasquez. He was on my bench this past week, and I was so happy with him. And then I also like Schmidt from RSL. I think it's fair to give Bobby Wood a shout as well. But Schmidt's shockingly cheap with very similar production. But I do want to throw Bobby Wood's name out there just because I think he's earned it. I don't know that I'll pick him up just because Schmidt's at the price that he is. I'm not a big fan of Niezgoda, and it's just because of the boomer bust phenomenon. he hasn't played enough in the last 2 seasons for me to have a real feel for him. But when I look at his points just across these first 3 weeks, right, it's nothing and a goal. And he didn't score his first goal until last week. He picks up no extra points. Swiderski, to be fair, also in the first 2 games got just minutes played. Reid and I talk all the time about being hesitant with a striker who only produces points when they score goals. If a striker's scoring goals every game, Josef is the same way, right?
Yeah.
If a striker's scoring goals, then who cares? I don't trust.
Hence my Higuain pick.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I hear that big time.
More as a 10, and he's earning bonus points.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, the way that Vasquez, and I know he didn't produce for people the first 2 weeks when he was a lot of people's cheap bench play. But the way he's playing at a false 9 and their matchups, he's a lock for me. But he's picking up points other than just the goals, and I always hesitate with these people that I don't know well, that don't start often. Just go to starting because Mora's hurt. I don't like him enough to pick him up. I'll probably have that third spot as a single game week striker, like you're referencing to, just because I know he's on a double game week. I should put him on my bench at least, or put him in, but I don't like his point production when he played last year, and then as we've come into this season, I don't know if it's just because he's the only guy, right? I mean, the only other striker they have listed is Mora, who's hurt indefinitely.
Well,
I don't even. So,
don't put Blanco up there.
Sure. Yes, that is, I think, something that's going to benefit Blanco. Yeah. Once he starts getting more consistent minutes, I think you're right. I think they'll play him kind of like Seattle plays Jordan Morris as this kind of false 9, kind of attacking wings style striker. But for fantasy listings, like, we can't manipulate that to make Blanco be our third striker, right? So I think looking at Nisgoda makes sense. I think Swiderski, I know I keep saying his name wrong.
No, that's right.
Oh, great. Makes sense. But I hesitate with them that we're just doing it because of the double, and that their point production actually isn't there. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
I had a pseudo argument this morning with somebody who's pretty good at fantasy games in general about double game week philosophies. And, there are exceptions, like Carlos Heel would be an exception for single game week players I'm talking about, where you look at Remy Walter and he's probably going to get a 10 max, maybe a 12, unless he scores, right?
Sure.
His floor is going to give him like about 10 points, maybe 9, maybe 11, who knows? Whereas, like pretty safe bet, you put a guy on set pieces. Well, I mean, it's not really a safe bet, but it's a safer bet given their form and fixture strength and stuff like that. That you put a guy like Zelarayan or Heel or somebody else who's on set pieces, who's a stud on the team, has a really good chance of outscoring a double game week player.
Sure.
So for those reasons, okay, and then here's the other thing that I think got lost in this podcast episode is that we need single game week players because we need scrub options.
Yes. So can I reiterate what you're saying for people that don't know the game as well as you do?
Sure.
So what we do oftentimes in these lineups is we will start a single game week player that we legitimately like, Higuain, someone, right? And put a double game week player that we're apprehensive about, but are picking up because it's a double game week on the bench. And that way, I think Nisgoda for me is a perfect example, right? I don't know that I could actually start him. I'd put him on my bench and I'd have at least two single game week players I like that if my bench doesn't hit, they'll play for me. But if Nisgoda gets a brace in both games, because that single game week doesn't happen until later, I can scrub that player out. And then some people, I feel like you do this, we'll set a whole team of people who actually play. Yeah. And as the points produce, scrub out the later gamed players. You have to pay attention. I always start
with a no scrub.
That's what I thought, yeah.
If I can afford it.
Exactly. So in that situation, you really have to pay attention to lineups, to everything. can't be sick, can't have families like Reid and Blaine every weekend now. So that's a trickier strategy, but it helps you get the most out of the points your team score, as the weekend goes on. So
yeah, and that's why I brought up the auto route, because
sure.
Yeah, that's the true switcheroo, what you were talking. That's the true switcheroo, is to have everybody, like 18 players.
Yep. So, yeah. Reid, who do you like for strike? Anybody different? I mean, I know Vasquez. Okay.
No, I think you guys covered the ones that I'd be looking at for double game week. Vasquez, I think, is the easy lock. I think the conversation is going to be between which RSL starter you want, because they both have some production right now, so that's going to be a game day call. Blaine agreed with, or also had Nezgoda on his list. I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the fence with that one too, but I understand. I agree with all the arguments you guys have, or suggestions you guys have made. So I think those are the prime double game week players.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if you guys would get to it. I had to run off with help with Baby Roo real quick, but let's talk about captains. Do you guys have a DGW captain, or are you saving that for a single? Christian?
I wouldn't even consider a single game week captain.
Not this week, no.
So who do you like?
I like Blanco. Or Yimmy. Like, sure. If Blanco starts the first game, it's going to be Blanco.
Ashley?
Yeah, I like Yimmy too. I always struggle emotionally captaining Portland players, but there's been so many times that it's the right thing to do. So the double home, the decent matchups, both Orlando and Galaxy are kind of hard to predict this season, which I think benefits Portland. And like I said, they're not really missing anybody. They might even be getting players back over this 2-week span. But the Brandon Vasquez of it is just super intriguing to me, but it feels like such a trap. It feels like captaining someone who just got a hat trick the week before, who never got a hat trick. He plays for a consistent wooden spoon winning team who has looked better, we have to say, but I don't know. I just feel this weird pull towards him that I think will only hurt me. I don't know. Reid, you're a Cincinnati fan. Maybe you can talk me out of it, but I don't know what it is about how he's looked and how he's played, last week and kind of across the season, honestly. And the matchups, I think, favor him. So I don't know. I have it on Yimmy. I think it'll probably stay there, but Vasquez keeps floating in the back of my mind as well.
Yeah, it's a risk because Vasquez is not this is going to sound weird. Vasquez is not a fantasy forward. And by that, as you've heard us say before, he scores. That's all he does. He's either going to get you a brace, a hat trick, a goal, or 2 points. Like that's what he's going to do, because he is your classic target, body up, big man forward. And he's not going to provide those bonus points. So if you want him, this is why I rarely ever captain a forward, because it's so dangerous that if he gets nothing, then you're going to come away with 8 points this round. Now, is he going to get nothing with 2 bites at the apple over 2 full weeks with 2 full weeks of rest? Maybe not, because the guy loves to shoot. Last week he was leading the league in shots. Acosta was leading the league in key passes. That's probably still not true, but shots made for Vasquez. I haven't looked at the stats today, but the boy loves to shoot. The boy has great underlying stats, and he's just been hungry for the opportunity to be a starter, and he has that here now with Cincinnati. So it's not a crazy option at all if you wanted to throw it on Vasquez. I doubt he's going to get rotated. It seems like everyone's has a good argument for why they should be where they are. I mean, Baji is doing great up there as a partner. Vasquez is putting up points. Brenner is coming back to being healthy, so he's not out of favor. He's just not been fit yet, and so we got 3 options, huh? Whoa, what's going on? It's crazy. Yeah. So
well, my problem with capping Vasquez is that he is on a team that's a prime candidate for bench plays.
Yeah. No, exactly. He's a much better switcheroo. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a triple stack, and it's on my bench, and that's for Cincinnati. I never thought I would say those words.
Yeah. It's happening.
So yeah, I mean, like, you're kind of forced into it almost. Like Lucho's on my bench. I mean, like I would normally start that guy, but it's a double game week. But I need the flexibility, so he's on my bench. Almost always start 5 midfielders.
Reid, who are you doing?
I haven't decided yet. I'm in the same agreement with you guys. Yimi and Vasquez are kind of, I think, the two common picks you're going to have this week. I don't think Orlando has any good options. I don't think Sporting Kansas City has any reliable options. It's the same thing, copy and paste for Real Salt Lake. I know their forwards have been sharing points as well. So I think those are your two chalk captains for sure. Someone in chat mentioned it was Heel, a captain option. That we should probably, I guess, we could mention that right now since it might be on some people's minds. I think a double game week captain is the best choice because of your raw point potential. But a player like Heel, I could see being in the conversations because he is at home. He is historically fantastic with bonus points. I'm concerned about their team's overall form, as Ashley already mentioned earlier in the show. I think that's valid. But I mean, he's one of those guys which you could put up against some double game week players and say, yeah, but one game from Heel, we saw 14 points on the road last week. Is that going to match up? So he's one of those guys you could put up there in your consideration. But don't forget that if you're going to want these double game week guys, you're going to have to decide this week for this round. You don't have that luxury of waiting and saying if you don't pick one of these guys, you have to pick a single game week player.
Yeah, pay attention to matchups and who's there and who's missing. Like, I mean, like if Swiderski's out, that pretty much makes Charlotte toothless on the attack. I mean, like you don't have much there, and so that makes that in and of itself makes Khan a viable keeper root pick.
Yeah, no, that timing is just fantastic for whenever you have a double game week. I always look for teams that wrap up early like that because they are just prime bench options right there because it gives you so much more flexibility, especially if you have a good budget built up. So it's great. The last thing I'll address before we wrap up the show is a comment I saw in chat. I think jogged my mind. Some people are saying, I guess I should be paying more attention to bonus points right now. Yes, absolutely. Those bonus points, especially in double game weeks, equal typically a great floor for what you're looking for in a player. But that also means some of these players that you might overlook, like defensive midfielders who have consistent floors, maybe 5, sometimes 6 points, might actually have a good score this week. So if you're looking at some of those guys that are defensive midfielders, we've talked about the players though, but this is just something to keep in mind as we go forward. This is a time when even D-mids become viable because of their consistent floors. They may not hit those 14 points like Heel, but if you have a player that nets you 10 points over 2 games, that's a solid score in a lot of respects, especially if it's a lower cost guy that lets you have money freed up to get somebody big up top as a forward or another paired up midfielder or 2 paired up midfielders like that. So just keep those in mind. We'll cover that more likely in another double game week when we have more teams as options to choose from. But yeah, bonus points, very important for DGWs. All right, well, thank you so much for everyone who joined us tonight, new and returning. So it was good to see so many new names in the chat as well. We're going to wrap things up as usual with our plugs. Christian.
The MLS Fantasy Boss Discord is my plug, as always. It's just the greatest thing ever invented in the world.
Ashley.
I'm gonna plug Discord too. You know, it's been so nice to see MLS Fantasy Twitter handle back and everything Skylar's been doing and everyone else involved with that. But the work that the guys and gals in Discord put into call ups, yellow card accumulations, these things that really matter, you know, when you're getting into the nitty gritty of making a team. It's just so awesome and I'm so appreciative of it. So shout out to everybody that's there, but also involved with all that stuff.
Yes, and I cannot take credit for the Discord. I definitely help steward it now, but I was not the one who actually started it. So you guys have a lot of credit for building it up to where it was. Older Golder and everybody there who Ermrong, who have helped with everything to get that where it needs to be as the fantastic place that it is. So the Discord is awesome. Again, you can check that out, MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord. Also, big shout out to all of our patrons who are listening. There is a winner for the Patreon poll for what our magnet is going to be, and that is what I'm calling the MLSFI FC Cincinnati logo. It is blue and orange. I did not request that. The artist did it on his own. It is a shield with it's logo option number 2. I'll tweet it out later, but that is the one that won the magnet voting, and so really excited to get that ordered once we have our second vote for the button later this year. But if you want to know how to become a supporter of Patreon and of the show through Patreon and learn more about that project, head over to patreon.com/MLSFI. You can learn more about it there, the various swag and tiers and fun things that we offer, including the Pro Rel League this year. Also, big shout out to everyone who helps out with MLSFantasyBoss.com. Tyler has been doing great work this year, not only on the Mega Reference, but also with his differential articles that have been pretty fun, I think. And check that out each week as we have it out there. Otherwise, you guys already plugged everything so much. It's just such a pleasure to be a part of this fun fantasy game with everybody who's participating. Glad to see the scores, the results, the feedback. You guys are fantastic. And as always, good luck.